Oh. What's up, baby? Welcome to the big dog's house. Oh. Hello. My name is Adam Pecora, and you are listening to Requiem for a Tuesday. Thanks for stopping by. I don't know what that opening was. Just felt right. And trying to channel something. Let's get the energy flowing. Let's look alive. Beautiful day here in Chicago, Illinois. A crisp 60 degrees plus. February, what more can you ask for, right? I guess protection from whatever the hell is about to happen this summer, because it is going to be a brutal, I'm sure. Anyway, rate, review, subscribe to Requiem for a Tuesday, Apple, Spotify, you name it, we're on it. Go check it out. Or, well, you're already checking it out, but smash that sub, bro. Come on now. Drop a like and a comment and a whatever. YouTube. Check it all out. We got music, multiplex, Wolfax. Check out Justice's show. My bandmate and whatevs. Microwave Minutes. Just check out the links below. We got lots of good stuff. Merch, rfat.bigcartel.com. Instagram, adam.rfat. All right. So before we get into the main event of today's episode, as we continue the Oscar lead-up episodes, I mean, I guess there'd really only be one more after this, right? Let me pull up the old calendar real quick. What are we looking at here? Yeah, I mean, the Oscars are on the 10th, so I can only really get one more episode in. So, pretty minuscule Oscar season coverage on this show. But if you look at what the market is doing today, the Oscars just don't matter to people anymore. Now you say, Adam, why is that? And I say, well, obviously, movies just don't matter to people anymore. And the live TV, just too tough of a pull. Really, only sports can get a live TV draw, it seems. And, there's plenty of other people overanalyzing. It ultimately is just an awards show about movies, but it used to be such a cultural event that it'd be one thing for the ratings to dip and maybe pick up, on streaming, or the YouTube numbers go up the next day, or, whatever it may be. But unfortunately, the data just suggests that people don't give a fuck. And that's just what's sad. I wish, if people just didn't watch it live but still had the same reaction and it still mattered, maybe it would hurt a little bit less. But it stings, ladies and gentlemen. It stings. The memory is now burned into my brain of missing the Chris Rock slap by seconds. Literally the walk from the Village Tavern to our hotel in New York, 3 blocks, whatever it was. Not even, I don't think. Literally like 2 minutes we missed of the Oscars, and the internet completely exploded in that time frame. I don't know why I'm on this tangent. My point is just, it felt like the Oscars again for a second, For all the wrong reasons, of course. So how do we make that happen how do we make that happen at the movies, I guess? That's what I'm trying to say. Submit your ideas. rfatpodcast@gmail.com. Let me know. I'm sure you won't. It's a joke. But you can, I guess, if you want to. What I was trying to get to, though, anyway, my little idea that I surmised partially as a bit, but the more I thought about it, the more I figured it would work. So I'm going to pitch you guys a little movie. Okay? Good Friday, the movie, right? Okay, here's the thing. I don't know anything about Jesus really outside of your like stereotypical general Jesus knowledge. Otherwise, you're not going to get correct information biblically on this episode or probably on this show at any point in time. I can't guarantee that because you never know what might happen. Why is this wet? Oh, everything's wet. I'm sorry. First time with a woman. Anyway, not going to get any correct biblical stuff here, but we're going to get a little biblical. So enjoy that irony for 10 seconds before you understand why. I'm pitching a movie. All right. So it's Groundhog Day, but it's the Groundhog Day time loop concept. Edge of Tomorrow, Palm Springs, whatever you want to pick. But it's a time loop movie, okay? And in this movie, you play Jesus of Nazareth. Well, you don't play him. In this movie, the main character is Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus Christ, if you will. Now, Jesus Christ, he wakes up in the morning. It's going to go beat for beat Groundhog Day, pretty much. Like, he wakes up one morning. It's this day. He's a little cranky, He turns water into coffee with his powers, but, he's just a little off. He's too tired, so it's like shitty coffee. He's just having a rough morning. You know what I mean? Nothing's working out. The camel traffic is insane. You get the idea. So anyway, at some point, Jesus is murdered. Oh no. Crucified. Actually, it's worse. It's hours and hours of torture or whatever. So this timeline may have to be finagled a little bit. Because like I said, did this all happen in one day? I don't know. Would this be better to get like a Last Supper in there? Was the Judas betrayal that day? Was it within a week? You know what I'm saying? So whatever the timeline is that allows you to maybe get more of the major events involved, then that's what the timeline is. That he wakes up on the morning of whatever the first event in that timeline is. So let's say, I'm going to make it up right now. He wakes up that day he's betrayed. Then, 2 days later, they have the Last Supper. Then 2 days later, he's crucified. Or the crucifixion takes 3 days. Whatever the appropriate timeline is, that's what we're following. Okay, so just understand that part. So all of that stuff happens. Then at the end, he's crucified, right? Once he's finally like dead on the cross, he wakes up again at the beginning of that cycle. And then we go through the regular beats of, okay, he's trying to figure out if he's dead or not, or what's happening. Is it the same day again? Was it all just a dream? So basically, you end up going through the exact same beats again and then end up getting crucified. Now the next time you learn a little more, etc., etc. And now this turns into, can Jesus survive his own crucifixion? And that's the time loop. And so in the end, Jesus would have to like avoid. So, each time then he tries to, okay, how do I not get betrayed by Judas? Oh, then he ends up avoiding being betrayed by Judas, but then he gets betrayed by somebody else instead. Oh, we got to pivot. Does he just try to get out of town? But he gets out of town, somebody already let somebody know, or he's seen somewhere else. Then he tries it. You know what I mean? So there's all these avenues to go on what he tries to do instead or what may happen instead. But he just keeps ending up dying no matter what. And then I don't know. But, we could run a lot of ways with that. Maybe it ends with him not being crucified. And then, I don't know. You could go. This would be like a comedy for sure, also. This would not. So I don't know if you want to just go super ridiculous with it, where it's like, oh, he finally avoids the crucifixion. Then, like, 4 days later, he just, like, drowns in a pool or something. Like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of ways you could go. And then they just, like, crucify his body then anyway, just to make it look like something. You know what I mean? Like, his followers do it on purpose. So then they can stage it and, like, he still becomes Jesus today. Whatever. Or you just fast forward to a future where, like, Judas is the number one worshipped guy, and that's the religion of Judah. Well, you know what I mean? Whatever. A million ways to go. So that's officially intellectual property of mine. Trademarked, copyrighted as of right now. Well, this moment that I'm speaking it, not the moment you're listening to it. So if this idea is a thing after this, you owe me money. Or just hit me up. Let's partner up. You want to write? Whatever. Let's get some shit going. Good idea, I don't imagine Mel Gibson would be interested, but I'm sure some Jews down. Woody Allen, you want to go out on top? Hit me up. I'll let a fucking 150-year-old weirdo direct my shit. Who wouldn't? Not a good joke. It's fine. It's fine. I can live with it. Don't worry about it. So that was my pitch, ladies and gentlemen. So hear me out. I could do that elevator pitch real easy. Groundhog Day, but it's Jesus getting crucified. Comedy. If I could have gotten word to Mel Brooks 35 years ago about that movie, it would be a classic today. What can I say? It's a parody and a religious romp. We're good to go. It writes itself. All of my ideas are so high concept that I describe them as being able to write themselves, yet I don't write them. That's actually not true. I got a script. Somebody read it. I need somebody to turn it into a real script because I'm just doing what I'm doing. Anyway, we're way off track here. Let's get to the movie of the hour, shall we? Or the week? I suppose that makes more sense. This episode's probably only going to be 30 minutes anyway. Not even an hour. And I'm only giving it 15 minutes. So, whatever that means. American Fiction. So, this is up for some Oscars. So, we decided we were going to do some Academy Award movies back to back. Anatomy of a Fall was last week. Didn't love it, but that's okay. American Fiction will be up for some major awards at the Oscars in a couple weeks, including Best Picture, not Best Director. Odd when that happens, but it happens. There's more nominees in picture, so what can you do? It's just definitely not going to win Best Picture. Best Actor, Jeffrey Wright. He was phenomenal and always is phenomenal in everything, so what can you say? Sterling K. Brown, Best Supporting. His character was a little cartoonish for me, but we'll get into that. Not that his performance was bad. I just think, Best Supporting Actor, fair nomination. He's a phenomenal actor as well, but what can you do there? Adapted Screenplay, Cord Jefferson, who's also the director, so at least he gets some love there. And then Best Original Score to Laura Cartman. I gotta say, your boy loved the score to this movie. Some wonderful little just like jazz beats that play over... I love when somebody's doing a nice, simple jazz score, and then sometimes it plays even during the dialogue a little bit. It doesn't cut when it would normally cut in traditional moments of score like in other movies. It plays a little longer into scene transitions and stuff like that. Love all that. Love a nice little jazz score. Let's keep that going as a trend. I feel like I've been hearing that in a lot of things lately. Or maybe I've just watched movies with it lately by coincidence, and that it's not necessarily in recent releases. So whatever. You kind of understand how that could work. Now, who is Cord Jefferson? I didn't know. But he was working on Master of None, The Good Place. He worked on HBO's Watchmen. So all good stuff and things that I have watched. So little did I know. I'd been a fan of this man's work. He also worked on Succession. Just listed as a consultant. So I don't know what that means or how involved he may have been. But I like this guy. He's got the talent. This was a very well-made film. Let me give you a little rundown of the plot here. So, essentially, your boy, Jeffrey Wright, plays an English professor. I assume English, whatever, at least something similar. English-related. He's working in writing. Professor at an unnamed Los Angeles university. He's also a novelist who is critically successful, academically successful, or lauded, whatever, but does not sell that many books, hence him having to have a job in the first place, I guess is one sign. Very early on, he is suspended for having an interaction with a student about race that goes a little too far, and they allude that it had been multiple incidents just like this. So he is put on leave, and he goes to Boston to visit his family, where he will also be attending some conference, some book conference. So nothing any of us would know anything about. Am I right, ladies and gentlemen? And then we're off. And he's there, and he's dealing with his family. His family's stressing him out, and he's stressed because he's not making any money from work. And he's stressed because of the exploitation of the black people in the media. Which partially fueled the reason for his fight with the students. So essentially, they were talking about like an old Southern book, and he had the N-word written in a phrase. I forget the phrase that was quoted from an excerpt of something they were studying. And it's basically a white girl who goes like, that word makes me uncomfortable. And he is a black guy, and he's like, deal with it. I'm managing to handle it fine. Which to me is as logical as any statement as you could possibly imagine. And the fact that someone would say that to that man is alarming. Especially when someone's trying to teach you something, you would think you would value the lesson instead of acting like you know better. And, yeah. So, I mean, obviously he was right, but the whole movie is basically that. There's a lot of great scenes of literally just, like, white girls standing up in front of him and stuff. And, I mean, guys, too. But you know what I'm saying. Just the type that you would, you'd peg. The limousine liberals, as I've heard them referred to, which I like that term. I don't know how common that is, but I don't use it a lot till now. Now I'm on board. So then he's out in Boston, and he just has a bunch of family issues, and all the stuff is going on. And then there's also this other book that he sees at the conference called like We's Done Lives in the Ghetto, something along those lines. And it's exactly the same thing you would expect, or, not you would expect, but it's exactly the same thing that he is talking about that bothers him. And basically his publishers, that was another thing. So he also, while this is all happening, was in the middle of submitting a new manuscript to his publishers for a new book. And they're basically like, we want a black book. And he's like, I'm black. It's my book. It is a black book. And they're like, nah, you know what we mean. And then he goes, and at this convention, there's nobody at the panel that he is on. And then there's a sold out room for another writer who has that book, which is basically just blaxploitation stuff, a la whatever. I don't know what examples they gave. Push by Sapphire or whatever. You know what we're talking about here. So anyway, that all just keeps riling him up, and then one night he writes a fake novel. I mean, one night, but you know what I mean. They blow it by. He basically quickly writes a full fake novel in the same vein about just really hammered in heavy stereotype uses. You know, single parent, guns, drugs, chains, ebonics, heavy ebonics usage, whatever the modern term for that is. Even I'm not aware. So whatever, if you find ebonics offensive, you're part of the message of the problem or whatever. Or I am. I don't care. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway. And they eat it up, and they basically, he writes it under a pen name to make it, basically because he's embarrassed to have it under his own name, and they submit it as a joke, but they love it. The publishers actually end up loving it. So they take the pen name to the advantage. They make him out to be this, like, convict on the run character, and they get, like, movie rights done before it's even out. All this crazy stuff. It just gets more and more lucrative. And then simultaneously, basically the movie juxtaposes his personal world with his business world, where everybody in the business world is a white person telling him what people want about black stories and all of those things. There's literally a scene where him and the other author of the Weez into Ghetto book are voted against for voting his book for Book of the Year, because the two black people think that it is pandering and offensive, but the three white people view it as powerful and whatever. And one of them literally stands up and is like, we think black people should have a voice. And it's hilarious. So there's just a ton of like that very strong on the nose irony comedy. And the heavy satirical nature is there the whole time with the business side of things, but then it's also like a very emotional, close-knit family comedy drama with his personal life. And they're juxtaposed very well. There's a version of this movie where it's just solely focused on him blowing up, doing the fake book, and becoming rich, and just continuing to exploit it until it becomes out of hand, and then it blows up in his face or something. And it's whatever. And it's like an exciting, clever, funny comedy movie. But there's no depth to it in that scenario. And then it doesn't end up in any Oscar contenders. And it's probably just like, a very refreshing, clever comedy. And don't get me wrong, I would love to see that version of this movie also, because the comedy stuff in this worked really well. And I was glued to the screen the entire time any of the book stuff was happening. And the family stuff was a little, it was just unexpected for me. I wasn't less entertained. I kind of just kept waiting for more of because just the surface level fun of all that, I just wanted more fun, I guess. But in the end, I do think it's more rewarding the way it worked out. So essentially a ton of stuff is going on with his family life while all this is happening. His mom is developing Alzheimer's. His sister literally dies, which was crazy and a little too much, but whatever. You know, it's a movie. They needed to move things along. They had to intro her quick and whatever. And then Sterling K. Brown and his brother who got caught by his wife with a man, so he's now fully out of the closet, but his life's kind of in, like, you know, a rough spot, obviously. So he's like having drug problems, and then they all are still having problems forever because their dad killed themselves. And it's basically like any of those problems could apply to any family or any race or whatever of any person in the entire country. They're literally all like doctors and like technically doing well financially, but even they're struggling financially in certain ways because of certain reasons, like being suspended or going through a divorce. Or your mom having Alzheimer's and you need to put her in a home or have round-the-clock care or whatever the case may be. They have, like, they're technically dealing with just like any upper middle class people's problems. It could be anyone is the whole point. So the irony of like, no, we're writing about the black experience in this book is juxtaposed against what this black experience is, which is just an experience. And it's a brilliant correlation. And they don't blow that in your face, though. There's not a scene where they're like, this is what a black family is really like. Like, he mentions it in frustration and stuff. He's like, I have fucking problems in my life. They're just not these ones that are problems, but they're just not mine. I can't relate to it. Like, you know, there's just this constant frustration. And then he ends up continuing to have more problems, and they just feed into each other and all that. But it's a really smart way to characterize it, but not be in your face about anything. Or again, they don't make it seem like, well, this is also what everything is like. They're just like, hey, this is what it is for him. Like, at least for this one guy. But there's going to be a ton of people that watch this movie and relate. Not to all of it, but to parts of it. Because, you know, one of their financial struggles in the thing is like, oh, we have to sell our beach house because they are able to have one. You know, that's a crazy thing where I'm like, shit, I'm poor as shit. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you know, it's not supposed to be a thing where everyone can relate to everything all the time. That's just not a thing. You don't need to represent everything like that in that way to the bare minimum of a... Because then that's when you're in a stereotype, I guess. The bare minimum stereotype thing. Because show the worst possible situation of a thing, and that's just how it is. Well, it's not just how it is, and things are a little bit different, and I like that they were able to show that with comedy, with effective drama, incredible acting all across the board. You know, a little disjointed here and there, where... Again, the family to business ratio I wish would have shifted a little more. I think the dynamic between Jeffrey Wright's character and then like his like I guess rival writer, they have like a showdown argument, but it doesn't really get anywhere. And I guess that's kind of the point though too. Is that like you either agree with one of them or you don't. But they're not going to change either one of each other's minds, which is essentially every argument everyone has with everyone about everything, but especially topics like this. And I don't know. I would just say everything is portrayed like incredibly well, and there's poignant messages in here that I think a lot of people could stand to see and maybe take in. And I think that's what they were going for. And then they pull out a fakey ending on you. Spoiler alert here, which, you know, kind of did already anyway, but whatever. Where they do the... Because there's this one scene where he's like, let me call the movie producer guy. I got an idea. And then they just cut away to it. And they don't reveal what that idea is until the end. Which is when this book wins the literary award... that he didn't want it to win. He goes up on stage and he's like, I got to tell you the truth. And he's basically finally going to reveal himself to everyone. And then it cuts and he's actually standing next to the producer and they're going over the script. And instead, well, he just goes like, well, what actually happened there is nothing. I just didn't admit it was me and the guy didn't accept the award and we moved on. And it's like still a secret. So instead, the movie is going to be the reveal of the truth, and this movie is going to be about me. Basically, the movie you just watched. And then the ending ends up being, the fake ending to the movie ends up being, he goes up on stage, tries to reveal that he's really him, and he's just a regular writer who's been around for years, and it was just an experiment or whatever. But instead, the police come in because they were set up outside, staking out the room, waiting for him to come on stage, and then they shoot and kill him. And everything about that is brilliant. It ties back into the meta nature of the entire thing, where he is playing himself as a writer, and then it all cycles back, and that it's based on a book, the movie itself, and all of this stuff. And a brilliant way to end it. Just great stuff. I really liked it a lot. And unfortunately, there's no way it's going to win Best Picture. I think there's a firm chance that Jeffrey Wright. I don't know. What is that category looking like? We're gonna have to pull up the categories here, ladies and gentlemen. Give me a second here. Because he was good, man, and he does comedy really well. It was subtle. He's asked to do actually kind of a lot because this movie, as I mentioned, it's both. There's both a full comedy in here and a full drama in here, and they don't really intersect ever, which is difficult to balance. It's kind of crazy the more I think about it. This is one of those ones that kind of sat with me a little bit better. And I feel like I liked it. I like it more the next day than I did as I was watching it. But let's see. Well, see, it's Cillian Murphy where it's like I just don't see how Cillian Murphy doesn't win. It's like I could see Giamatti getting it as like a legacy award, I guess, but The Holdovers I feel like is just too small of a movie to be recognized. I don't even know what Rustin is. Sorry. Like I know that he was like an activist or whatever, but like I didn't even know that this movie came out is what I mean. Was it good? Let's see. What were the reviews like? 84% for Rustin, 68 Metacritic. Okay. I'll trust it. What did this come out on? Oh, it just came out on Netflix. Oh, well, maybe I'll watch this then. Great. We'll see. And Bradley Cooper, I feel like the hype for that movie died kind of the second it came out, unfortunately. I didn't watch it. I don't think I'm going to either. I'm just not interested. Yeah, I mean, I just don't see him beating Cillian Murphy. And then what do we got for supporting here? Robert De Niro, Robert Downey Jr., Ryan Gosling. He has no chance, unfortunately. Even Mark Ruffalo, I hear. Like, that's probably the toughest category of the whole fucking awards. Jesus Christ. That's insane. The best supporting act. I mean, what a tough year to be in that category. Adapted screenplay? Oppenheimer, probably, just because, although Zone of Interest needs to get some love from what I hear. I found out that movie's not in English, and I have no fucking interest, which is crazy, because it's an English director, I thought. But I think he's like English, like England, which means Europe, which means they do other languages there. Fuck that. I don't do that fucking communist bullshit. Then what do they have for score? What are they up against for score? Indiana Jones? I don't think so. Robbie Robertson for Killers. I mean, the Killers of the Flower Moon score was great. Oppenheimer was great, yeah. So tough categories. They're probably not going to win anything there. But that, honestly, it's a great movie. If you have the chance to see it, go see it. I went and saw it in theaters. It was $20 to rent. The tickets I went to a matinee. They were $9 each. So I saved money by going to the theater. If you want to watch it at home, it'll work at home. I would say just play it a little loud so you can hear that nice, smooth jazz and really enjoy it. But yeah, American Fiction. Our second. I guess I only did one movie last week, too. I just did Apocalypse Now with it, which doesn't even count. So, yeah, we'll do another Oscars movie next week, and then we'll do an Oscars recap show after. Hopefully something interesting happens, but hopefully to Will Smith instead of by Will Smith. So yeah, that sounds like a fun plan. Rate, review, and subscribe to Requiem for a Tuesday. Please, please, please. Goes a long way. Let's get those numbers up. Share the episodes with your friends, with your family, with whoever. Tell a stranger to check me out. That was a crazy sentence. And I think that's it. Check out all the links in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, as always. And remember, I know you forget, but please remember, RFAT, You are fat. We are fat. Calculator.